Hey everyone. What scene was it? Oh god. Is this one? Was it this one? Is this one? I think I want to do it on this one. Okay, we're good. Hey everyone, hi. What's up? Do let me know. Do let me know if it's too loud. If you can hear cars. I don't know if you can. It's just a little hot in my room, so I decided to open my window. Yeah. I mean, what window? I'm outside. Obviously, you can hear cars. Can't hear cars? Okay, well that's good. That's better than I was expecting. Damn ass. What Hayden plays? What does that mean? Damn ass. What is that? What does that mean? You guys are chatting in chat before the stream starts. What's going on? Also, yes, I am pink today. Yeah. I was feeling pink, so that's what you're getting. You're getting pink today. I'm just realizing that I deleted my scene for you, or because of the damn in the heck. What does that mean? Anyway, F. What? Anyway, we're reading Alice's Adventures in Wonderland today. We are. And there's nothing you can do about it. Message retracted. Okay, well, he gave up with that then, I guess. Yeah, so, I'm gonna be looking down a lot today, so my eyes will be closed, but, you know. So you're like a chameleon? You know, it's just whatever happens, happens. Newt, you know how I said I was trying to rig my own stuff? Oh yeah, how's that going? How's that going, Lou? Oh yeah, thanks for reminding me, Lou. Welcome, Cass. Forgetting every time. Oh, blah, blah. Oh, I'm excited. You were trying to rig your own stuff, eh? Did you get it done? Did you finish? Did you finish? Kept thinking to myself what I was doing wrong, and I was moving everything to the wrong level thingy. You were doing it all wrong? What? That's, okay, you must have heard that. That was just a screech. Someone's got to get their brakes checked. Jesus. We're getting there? Okay, well, you're getting there. Oh, yeah. 1 second. I have to fix myself a little because I'm looking too far to the left right now. 1 second. You can't see me, I know. Where is it? Okay. And I am back. Oh no, now I'm leaning too far to the right. Okay. Yeah, so the original book, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, as far as I know, is a little bit of an interesting case. It's a really old book. I don't actually know when it was originally written, but it is very old, and I'm not entirely sure how it was written. I know there's a special story to it, and there's a little bit of a vague like context to how it was written originally in this at the start of the book. There's like a little poem that sort of explains a little bit behind how it was written originally. So we're gonna be reading that as well, and there's an author's note too, so we'll read that too. Why not? Even though as far as I know, there's not one author. This was a collaborative effort, I think. Something like that. So, we're going to get started. Also, for how long I'm going to go today, I don't have any like amount of time planned specifically, but but I'm probably gonna go for like, I don't know. In terms of how long I can just outright read, I'd say probably like an hour. Assistant director of the damn apartment. I'd say probably like an hour I can read for comfortably, like out loud. But maybe I'll do an hour and a half. Who knows? Or I get trained after that. I don't know. Okay, we'll just start. No more. Just starting. Author's note. Oh, I have to get comfy. Inquiries have been so often addressed to me as to whether any answer to the Hatter's riddle can be imagined, that I may as well put on record here what seems to me to be a fairly appropriate answer, viz. Because it can produce a few notes, though they are very flat, and it is never put with the wrong end in front. This, however, is merely an afterthought. The riddle, as originally invented, had no answer at all. So this author's note, I actually looked through it a little bit to try to make sense of it, because it's written in such weird language that I couldn't really understand it at first. So what I understood from it is that he's saying that the Hatter's riddle has an answer by chance, basically. And there are multiple answers that happen by chance, but originally there was no answer in mind. The original riddle had no answer in mind. And I guess you're all familiar with the Hatter's riddles, just from the stories in general, but we'll get there. But I thought that was really interesting. But originally, no answer was intended, but there are multiple answers that could be given. And he's basically saying that those answers are correct, just because, why not, I guess. He's saying it's an appropriate answer. So that's interesting. You're 19 now. That's pretty cool. Okay, and here we have a little poem that explains a little bit called All in the Golden Afternoon. All in the golden afternoon, full leisurely we glide, for both our oars with little skill by little arms are plied, while little hands make vain pretense our wanderings to guide. Ah, cruel three, in such an hour, beneath such dreamy weather, to beg a tale of breath too weak to stir the tiniest feather. Yet what can one poor voice avail against three tongues together? Imperious Prima flashes forth her edict to begin with. In gentler tone, Secunda hopes there will be nonsense in it, while Tertia interrupts the tale not more than once a minute. Anon to sudden silence won, in fancy they pursue the dream child moving through a land of wonders wild and new, in friendly chat with bird or beast, and half believe it true. What? Where'd I go? Hello? Okay, I pressed the wrong button. And ever as the story drained the wells of fancy dry, and faintly strove that weary one to put the subject by. The rest next time, it is next time, the happy voices cry. Thus grew the tale of Wonderland, thus slowly one by one, its quaint events were hammered out, and now the tale is done, and home we steer a merry crew beneath the setting sun. Alice, a childish story take, and with a gentle hand lay it where childhood's dreams are twined in memory's mystic band, like pilgrims' withered wreath of flowers plucked in a far-off land. Okay. It was in the 1800s. All novels were wacky. Yeah, wacky. They were indeed. Okay, so that's the poem. And I've also looked at this, tried to just make sense of it a little bit. And what I've gotten from it so far is that basically, one second, I want to be bigger but be further down. There you go. What I've made sense of it so far is that basically it's talking about how 3 different people were involved in writing the story, I think. And kind of the a little bit of the details about how the people were involved. So, Imperius Prima flashes forth her edict to begin it. Is basically Imperius Prima is the person who started the story. In gentler tones, Secunda hopes there will be nonsense in it. So the second person that contributed to the story wanted nonsense in it, while Tertia interrupts the tale not more than once a minute. And then Tertia's like the editor, I guess, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of the impression I got. So yeah, very interesting. Yeah, and that's mostly it. And there's a little bit more. It's like thus grew the tale of Wonderland, thus slowly, one by one. So the quaint events were hammered out. My damn Xbox. What are you talking about, bro? I'm not an English major now. Not at all. I just really, I like books. So I got this. No, I'm not. I was in software engineering before. Interesting. I don't think I would have gotten that figured out. Well, I had some context beforehand, so not entirely my figuring out. But yeah. Okay, we're gonna start the book now. Chapter 1, Down the Rabbit Hole. Alice was beginning to get very tired of sitting by her sister on the bank. Why would you ever get tired of sitting on the bank, bro? That doesn't make any sense to me. The bank is great. It's a great place to sit. Okay, sorry. I'll try not to interject too much. I just had to comment on this. I read this first line. I was like, what the fuck? Okay, anyway. Your friend's here. No problem. You can let him come in. Oh, you want me to wait to start? Because your friend's here. I should have, actually. I purposefully left. Let me make sure I did leave it on. Yeah, I did. I purposefully left on DVR so that people that are coming in can just rewind to the start of the stream to listen back. So I'm not going to wait for people, but if you come in mid-stream, you can just rewind back. Okay, from the start again. Alice was beginning to get very tired of sitting by her sister on the bank and of having nothing to do. Once or twice, she had peeped into the book her sister was reading, but it had no pictures or conversations in it. And what is the use of a book, thought Alice, without pictures or conversations? So she was considering in her own mind, as well as she could, for the hot day made her feel very sleepy and stupid, whether the pleasure of making a daisy chain would be worth the trouble of getting up and picking the daisies, when suddenly a white rabbit with pink eyes ran close by her. There was nothing so very remarkable in that, nor did Alice think it so very much out of the way to hear the rabbit say to itself, oh dear, I shall be too late." When she thought it over afterwards, it occurred to her that she ought to have wondered at this. But at the time, it all seemed quite natural. But when the rabbit actually took a watch out of its waistcoat pocket and looked at it, and then hurried on, Alice started to her feet, for it flashed across her mind that she had never before seen a rabbit with either a waistcoat pocket or a watch to take out of it, and burning with curiosity, she ran across the field after it, and fortunately was just in time to see it pop down a large rabbit hole under the hedge. I'm concerned for you. As a 19-year-old, I don't see why you have a 4-year-old friend. You know, maybe it's his cousin or something. In another moment, down went Alice after it, never once considering how in the world she would get out again. The rabbit hole went straight on like a tunnel for some way, and then dipped suddenly down, so suddenly that Alice had not a moment to think about stopping herself before she found herself falling down a very deep well. Your friend is cooler. I hope it's their dog. That does make more sense. Either the well was very deep, or she fell very slowly, for she had plenty of time as she went down to look about her, and to wonder what was going to happen next. First, she tried to look down and make out what she was coming to, but it was too dark to see anything. Then she looked at the sides of the well, and noticed that they were filled with cupboards and bookshelves. Here and there she saw maps and pictures hung upon pegs. She took down a jar from one of the shelves as she passed. It was labeled Orange Marmalade. But to her great disappointment, it was empty. She did not like to drop the... She did not like to drop the jar for fear of killing somebody, so managed to put it into one of the cupboards as she fell past it. See, something that's really interesting. I'll make like comments every paragraph, I guess. Something that's interesting if I have anything to say. Something that's interesting is that this writing style is very similar to what I would like to write like, I guess. Sometimes. Either I want to write really casually or with this very, I don't know, the type of language, it has such a feel to it, like such a wondrous feel almost. It's very interesting. Excuse me. What is the world of the damn game in the Game of Thrones series is in the Game of Thrones and the game... You need a timeout, buddy. Okay. But yeah, I think this is a really interesting style to write with. Well, thought Alice to herself, after such a fall as this, I shall think nothing of tumbling downstairs. How brave they'll all think of me at home. Why, I wouldn't say anything about it, even if I fell off the top of the house, which was very likely true. Down, down, down. Would the fall never come to an end? I wonder how many miles I've fallen by this time, she said aloud. I must be getting somewhere near the center of the earth. Let me see. That would be 4,000 miles down, I think. For you see, Alice had learnt several things of this sort in her lessons in the schoolroom, and though this was not a very good opportunity for showing off her knowledge, as there was no one to listen to her, still it was good practice to say it over. Yes, that's about the right distance. But then I wonder, what latitude or longitude I've got to. Alice had no idea what latitude was, or longitude either, but thought they were nice grand words to say. Presently she began again. I wonder if I shall fall right through the earth. How funny it'll seem to come out among the people that walk with their heads downwards. The antipathies, I think. She was rather glad there was no one listening, this time, as it didn't sound at all the right word. This one's so funny. Antipathies. Since it didn't sound at all the right word. But I shall have to ask them what the name of the country is, you know? Please, ma'am, is this New Zealand or Australia? As she tried to curtsy as she spoke. Fancy curtsying as you're falling through the air. Do you think you could manage it? And what an ignorant little girl she'll think me. No, it'll never do to ask. Perhaps I shall see it written up somewhere. Yo, Alice is literally predicting GeoGuessr. Excuse me. Where was I? Here. Down, down, down. There was nothing else to do, so Alice soon began talking again. Dinah'll miss me very much tonight, I should think. Dinah was the cat. I hope they'll remember her saucer of milk at tea time. Dinah, my dear, I wish you were down here with me. There are no mice in the air, I'm afraid, but you might catch a bat, and that's very like a mouse, you know. But do cats eat bats, I wonder? And here Alice began to get rather sleepy, and went on saying to herself, in a dreamy sort of way, do cats eat bats? Do cats eat bats? And sometimes, do bats eat cats? For, you see, as she couldn't answer either question, it didn't much matter which way she put it. She felt that she was dozing off, and had just begun to dream, that she was walking hand in hand with Dinah, and saying to her very earnestly, Now, Dinah, tell me the truth. Did you ever eat a bat? When suddenly, thump, thump. Down she came upon a heap of dry leaves, and the fall was over. Fun fact, a nuclear arms treaty between the USA and the Russian Federation expires on February 5th. Okay. Fun fact. It could be extended though, so it's probably fine. Yeah, let's hope we don't all get nuked into nothingness. I hope so. Jesus. Alice was not a bit hurt, and she jumped up to her feet in a moment. She looked up, but it was all dark overhead. Before her was another long passage, and the white rabbit was still in sight, hurrying. Flipping the page. Hurrying down it. There was not a moment to be lost. Away went Alice like the wind, and was just in time to hear it say, as it turned a corner, "Oh my, ears and whiskers, how late it's getting." She was close behind it when she turned the corner, but the rabbit was no longer to be seen. She found herself in a long, low hall, which was lit up by a row of lamps hanging from the roof. There were doors all round the hall, but they were all locked, and when Alice had been all the way down one side and up the other, trying every door, she walked sadly down the middle, wondering how she was ever going to get out. Get out again. Suddenly, she came upon a little three-legged table, all made of solid glass. There was nothing on it except a tiny golden key, and Alice's first thought was that it might belong to one of the doors of the hall, but alas, either the locks were too large or the key was too small. But at any rate, it would not open any of them. However, the second time around, she came upon a low curtain she had not noticed before, and behind it was a little door about 15 inches high. She tried the golden key in the lock, and to her great delight, it fitted. Alice opened the door and found that it led into a small passage, not much larger than a rat hole. She knelt down and looked along the passage into the loveliest garden you ever saw. How she longed to get out of that dark hall and wander about among those beds of bright flowers and those cool fountains. But she could not even get her head through the doorway. And even if my head would go through, thought poor Alice. Yeah, it fitted. The tiny key in the tiny doorway. Thought poor Alice, it would be of very little use without my shoulders. Oh, how I wish I could shut up like a telescope. It's an interesting expression. Oh, how I wish I could shut up like a telescope. I think I could, if only I knew how to begin. For you see, so many out-of-the-way things had happened lately that Alice had begun to think that very few things indeed were really impossible. That sounds wrong. How? What? There seemed to be no use in waiting by the little door, so she went back to the table, half hoping she might find another key on it, or at any rate, a book of rules for shutting people up like telescopes. This time she found a little bottle on it, which certainly was not here before, said Alice, and round its neck a paper label, with the words, "Drink me," beautifully printed on it in large letters. It was all very well to say "drink me," but the wise little Alice was not going to do that in a hurry. "No, I'll look first," she said, and see whether it's marked poison or not, for she had read several nice little histories about children who had got burnt and eaten up by wild beasts. What? Sorry. Huh? No, I'll look first, she said, and see whether it's marked poison or not, for she had read several nice little histories about children who had got burnt and eaten up by wild beasts, and many other unpleasant things, all because they would not remember the simple rules their friends had taught them, such as that red-hot poker will burn you if you hold it for too long, and that if you cut your finger very deeply with a knife, it usually bleeds. And she had never forgotten that if you drink much from a bottle marked poison, it is almost certain to disagree with you sooner or later. Okay, gotcha. However, this bottle was not marked poison, so Alice ventured to taste it. I think it's so funny. Kids are like, oh yeah, the rules. I'll follow the rules. So long as I'm following the rules, I'm fine. So Alice ventured to taste it, and finding it very nice, it had in fact a sort of mixed flavor of cherry tart, custard, pineapple, roast turkey, toffee, and hot buttered toast. She very soon finished it off. It's a whole ass Thanksgiving dinner. What a curious feeling, said Alice. I must be shutting up like a telescope. And so it was indeed. She was now only 10 inches high, and her face brightened up at the thought that she was now the right size for going through the little door into that lovely garden. First, however, she waited for a few minutes to see if she was going to shrink any further. She felt a little nervous about this, For it might end, you know, said Alice, in my going out altogether like a candle. I wonder what I should be like then. And she tried to fancy... You guys seriously not hear cars? The secret drink of becoming an Oompa Loompa. Can't have any sneaky Alice's drinking it. Should label my poison bottles with poison. Where was I? You retracted your message, Hayden. You said this is not good. The cars are faint? Okay, well that's fine, I guess. Where was I? For it might end, you know, said Alice, in my going out altogether, like a candle. I wonder what I should be like then. And she tried to fancy what the flame of a candle is like after it is blown out, for she could not remember ever having seen such a thing. After a while, finding that nothing more happened, she decided on going into the garden at once. But alas, for poor Alice, when she got to the door, she found she had forgotten the little golden key, and when she went back to the table for it, she found she could not possibly reach it. She could see it quite plainly through the glass, and she tried her best to climb up one of the table legs, but it was too slippery. And when she had tired herself out with trying, the poor little thing sat down and cried. Alice didn't plan ahead. I'm going AFK, no problem. Reading outdoors while we chill on a picnic table. That's fair. Come, there's no use in crying like that, said Alice to herself, rather sharply. I advise you to leave off this minute. She generally gave herself very good advice, though she very seldom followed it. And sometimes she scolded herself, so severely as to bring tears into her eyes, and once she remembered trying to box her own ears for having cheated herself in a game of croquet she was playing against herself. Damn. For this curious child was very fond of pretending to be two people. But it's no use now, thought poor Alice, to pretend to be two people. Why, there's hardly enough of me left to make one respectable person. Soon her eye fell on a little glass box that was lying under the table. She opened it and found it in a very small cake. What? Soon her eye fell on a little glass box that was lying under the table, yes, and found a very small cake, on which the words "Eat me" were beautifully marked in currants. Well, I'll eat it, said Alice, and if it makes me larger, I can reach the key, and if it makes me smaller, I can creep under the door, so either way, I'll get into the garden, and I don't care which happens. She ate a little bit, and said anxiously to herself, Which way? Which way? Holding her hand on top of her head to feel which way it was growing, and she was quite surprised to find that she remained the same size. To be sure, this generally happens when you eat cake. When one eats cake, sorry. But Alice had got so much into the way of expecting nothing but out of so much, oh my god, the word I hear. On AFK, no problem. Because we've already read that. Where was I? This generally happens when one eats cake, but Alice had got so much into the way of expecting nothing but out of the way things to happen, that it seemed quite dull and stupid for life to go on in the common way. So she set to work, and very soon finished off the cake. Alice over here eating a whole ass cake. And that's chapter 1. How long did that take? Oh, I've been live half an hour. Cool. Okay. Just gonna rest my eyes for a second. It's already been half an hour, apparently. All right. Chapter 2. Chapter 2. Feels like 5 minutes. I don't know how it's been half an hour. But I haven't been live for half an hour. The Pool of Tears. Curiouser and curiouser, cried Alice. She was so much surprised that for the moment she quite forgot how to speak good English. Now, I'm opening out like the largest telescope that ever was. Goodbye, feet. for when she looked down at her feet, they seemed to be almost out of sight. They were getting so far off. Also, the illustration here is creepy as hell. It's like, Alice's neck is super long for some reason, and it's just a really creepy. If you look up, you'll see it if you look up Alice in Wonderland original illustrations. I found it the other day, or just today actually. Where she has a really long neck. It's super creepy. And she was so much surprised that for the moment she quite forgot how to speak good English. Now I'm opening out like the largest telescope that ever was. Goodbye, feet. For when she looked down at her feet, they seemed to be almost out of sight. They were getting so far off. Oh, my poor little feet. I wonder who will put on your shoes and stockings for you now, dears. I'm sure I shan't be able to. I shall be a great deal too far off to trouble myself about you. You must manage the best you can. But I must be kind to them, thought Alice, or perhaps they won't walk the way I want to go. Let me see. I'll give them a new pair of boots every Christmas. It is spooky, isn't it? And she went on planning to herself how she would manage it. They must go by the carrier, she thought, and how funny it'll seem, sending presents to one's own feet, and how odd the directions will look. Alice is this is funny. It's like a little address that you might put on a letter. Alice's right foot. What does ESQ stand for? I actually don't know. ESQ, Esquire? Like, I read it as Esqu every time I see it. Let's actually look it up. ESQ. It does mean Esquire. An abbreviation of Esquire, which is a title used by attorneys in the United States. Alice's right foot is an attorney? Holy crap. That's intense. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Alice's right foot, Esquire. Hearthrug. Near the fender, with Alice's love. Nice. Oh dear, what nonsense I'm talking. Just then, her head struck against the roof of the hall. In fact, she was now more than 9 feet tall, and she at once took up the little golden key and hurried off to the garden door. Poor Alice! It was as much as she could do, lying down on one side to look through the garden with one eye. But to get through, she was more hopeless than ever. She sat down and began to cry again. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, said Alice. A great girl like you, she might well say this, to go on crying this way. Stop this moment, I tell you. But she went on all the same, shedding gallons of tears until there was a large pool all round her, about 4 inches deep and reaching half down the hall. She's crying a lot, holy crap. After a time, she heard a little pattering of feet in the distance, and she hesitantly dried her eyes to see what was coming. It was the white rabbit, returning splendidly dressed, with a pair of white kid gloves in one hand and a large fan in the other. He came trotting along in a great hurry, muttering to himself as he came. Turning the page. Oh, the Duchess, the Duchess. Oh, won't be so savage if I've kept her waiting. Alice felt so desperate that she was ready to ask help of anyone, so when the rabbit came near her, she began, in a low, timid voice, If you please, sir. The rabbit started violently, dropped the white kid gloves and the fan, and scurried away into the darkness as hard as he could go. Jesus, did you hear that? Alice took up the fan and gloves, and as the hall was very hot, she kept fanning herself all the time she went on talking. Dear, dear, how queer everything is today. And yesterday things went on just as usual. I wonder if I've been changed in the night. Let me think. Was I the same when I got up this morning? I almost think I can remember feeling a little different. But if I'm not the same, the next question is, who in the world am I? Ah, that's the great puzzle. And she began thinking over all the children she knew that were of the same age as herself, to see if she could have been changed for any of them. I'm sure I'm not Ada, how do you, Ada, I think Ada, she said, for her hair goes in such long ringlets, and mine doesn't go in ringlets at all, and I'm sure I can't be Mabel, for I know all sorts of things, and she knows very much, wait, what? She knows such a very little. It's interesting, they use exclamation marks without, using it as punctuation. because it's a lowercase letter after the exclamation mark. I really like not adhering to grammar like this a lot. It feels so natural to me. And it feels like way more descriptive. And I'm sure I can't be Mabel, for I know all sorts of things, and she knows such a very little. Besides, she's she, and I'm I. And, oh dear, how puzzling it all is. I'll try if I know all the things I used to know. Let me see. 4 times 5 is 12, and 4 times 6 is 13, and 4 times 7 is... Oh dear, I shall never get to 20 at that rate. However, the multiplication table doesn't signify. Let's try geography. Wait a minute. Okay, wait. You stuttered for like 5 seconds. Very natural. Did I stutter for 5 seconds? Maybe. What did I stutter on? Or my face. Where was I? 4 times 6 is 13. See, that's not it. 4 times 5 is 12. Yeah, that's not it either. 4 times 7, yeah. So she can't do math. Nah, just exaggerating? Oh, okay. Let's try geography. London is the capital of Paris, and Paris is the capital of Rome, and Rome... No, that's all wrong. I'm certain I must have changed for Mabel. I'll try and say, how doth the little... And she crossed her hands on her lap as if she were saying lessons, and began to repeat it. But her voice sounded hoarse and strange, and the words did not come out the same as they used to. How doth the little crocodile improve his shining tail, and pour the waters of the Nile on every golden scale? How cheerfully he seems to grin, how neatly spread his claws, and welcomes little fishes in with gently smiling jaws. I'm sure those are not the right words, said poor Alice, and her eyes filled with tears again as she went on. I must be Mabel after all, and I shall have to go and live in that pocky little house, and have next to no toys to play with, and, oh, ever so many lessons to learn. No, I have made up my mind about it. If I'm Mabel, I'll stay down here. It'll be no use they're putting their heads down and saying, "Come up again, dear." I shall only look up and say, "Who am I then? Tell me that first, and then, if I like being that person, I'll come up. If not, I'll stay down here till I'm somebody else. But oh dear," cried Alice, with a sudden burst of tears, "I do wish they would put their heads down. I am so very tired of being all alone here." Damn, Alice is struggling. As she said this, she looked down at her hands, and was surprised to see that she had put on one of the rabbit's little white kid gloves while she was talking. How can I have done that? She thought. I must be growing small again. She got up and went to the table to measure herself by it, and found that, as nearly as she could guess, she was now about 2 feet high, and was going on shrinking rapidly. She soon found out that the cause of this was the fan she was holding, and she dropped it hastily, just in time to avoid shrinking away altogether. That was a narrow escape, said Alice, a good deal frightened at the sudden change, but very glad to find herself still in existence. And now for the garden. She ran with all speed back to the little door, but alas, the little door was shut again, and the little golden key was lying on the glass table as before. And things are even worse than ever, thought the poor child, for I never was so small as this before, never. And I declare it's too bad, that it is. She's just a child. As she said these words, her foot slipped, and in another moment, flipping the page. And in another moment, splash, she was up to her chin in salt water. Her first idea was that she had somehow fallen into the sea, and in that case I can go back by railway, she said to herself. Alice had been to the seaside once in her life, and she had come to the general conclusion that wherever you go to the English coast, you find a number of bathing machines in the sea. Some children digging in the sand with wooden spades, then a row of lodging houses, and behind them, a railway station. I think the book does assumptions of a kid really well, because this definitely feels like the kinds of assumptions you make as a kid. However, she soon made out that she was in the pool of tears she had wept when she was 9 feet high. "I wish I hadn't cried so much," said Alice as she swam about, trying to find her way out. "I shall be punished for it now, I suppose, by being drowned in my own tears. That will be a queer thing, to be sure. However, everything is queer today." Just then, she heard something splashing about in a pool, a little way off, and she swam nearer to make it out what it was. At first, she thought it must be a walrus, or hippopotamus, but then she remembered how small she was now, and she soon made out that it was only a mouse that had slipped in like herself. Would it be of any use now, thought Alice, to speak to this mouse? Everything is so out of the way down here, that I should think very likely it can talk. At any rate, there's no harm in trying. So she began, "Oh, mouse, do you know the way out of this pool? I am very tired of swimming about here. Oh, mouse." Hi, Into, what's up? Alice thought this might be the right way of speaking to a mouse. She had never done such a thing before, but she remembered having seen in her brother's Latin grammar, "A mouse of a mouse to a mouse, oh mouse." The mouse looked at her rather inquisitively, and seemed to her to wink with one of its little eyes, but it said nothing. "Perhaps it doesn't understand English," thought Alice. I dare say it's a French mouse come over with William the Conqueror." For with all her knowledge of history, Alice had no very clear notion of how long ago anything had happened. So she began again, "Où est ma chatte?" which was the first sentence in her French lesson book. The mouse gave a sudden leap out of the water, and seemed to quiver all over with fright. "Oh, I beg your pardon," cried Alice hastily, afraid that she had hurt the poor animal's feelings. "I quite forgot you didn't like cats." "Not like cats?" cried the mouse, in a shrill, passionate voice. "Would you like cats if you were me?" "Well, perhaps not," said Alice in a soothing tone. "Don't be angry about it, and yet I wish I could show you our cat, Dinah. I think you'd take a fancy to cats if you could only see her. She is such a dear..." Flipping page. "She is such a dear, quiet thing," Alice went on, half to herself, as she swam lazily about in the pool. "And she sits purring so nicely by the fire, licking her paws and washing her face. And she is such a nice, soft thing to nurse, and she's such a capital one for catching mice." "Oh, I beg your pardon," cried Alice again. For the first time, the mouse was bristling all over, and she felt certain it must be really offended. "We won't talk about that any more, if you'd rather not." "We indeed," cried the mouse, who was trembling down to the end of his tail. As if I would talk on such a subject. Our family always hated cats. Nasty, low, vulgar things. Don't let me hear the name again." "I won't, indeed," said Alice, in a great hurry to change the subject of conversation. Ugh, my eyes are going crazy. To change the conversation. Are you fond of dogs?" The mouse did not answer, so Alice went on eagerly. "There's such a nice little dog near our house. I would like to show you. A little bright-eyed terrier, you know, with oh such long curly brown hair. And it'll fetch things when you throw them, and it'll sit up and beg for its dinner, and all sorts of things. I can't remember half of them. And it belongs to a farmer, you know. And he says it's so useful, it's worth £100. He says it kills all the rats and..." "Oh dear," cried Alice in a sorrowful tone. "You're a dog person?" Cried Alice in a sorrowful tone. God damn it. I'm afraid I've offended it again, for the mouse was swimming away from her as hard as it could go, and making quite a commotion in the pool as it went. So she called softly after it, "Mouse dear, do come back again, and we won't talk about cats or dogs either, if you don't like them." When the mouse heard this, it turned round and swam slowly back to her. Its face was quite pale with passion, Alice thought, and it said in a low, trembling voice, "Let us get to the shore, and then I'll tell you about my history, and you'll understand why I hate cats and dogs." It was high time to go, for the pool was getting quite crowded with the birds and animals that had fallen into it. There was a duck and a dodo, a lory and an eaglet, and several other curious creatures. Alice led the way, and the whole party swam to the shore. That's chapter 2. I'm thinking chapter 3 might be our last chapter, or maybe we'll do 3 and 4. Depending on how I feel after chapter 3. Weirdly enough, my eyes are what are hurting the most. And I'm not sure why. Yeah, maybe. I did not get great sleep last night. I won't lie. It was not the best. Okay, chapter 3. A caucus race and a long tail. Gonna have to take yourself a nap, maybe. They were indeed a queer-looking party that assembled. You know, the word queer, the way it's used in this book, I've noticed it like a few times. It's the way I use odd when I write. I just say everything is odd for some reason. And I'm trying to use the word less. Because I don't like using words too many times, but odd is definitely my favorite word. Yeah, I know they're the same word. They mean the same thing. Although queer has a little bit more history to it now than odd, but I like odd. Odd's a good word. It's short too. I like short words, short and simple words. That assembled on. They were indeed a queer-looking party that assembled on the bank. The birds with draggled feathers, the animals with their fur clinging close to them, and all dripping wet, cross and uncomfortable. The first question, of course, was how to get dry again. They had a consultation about this, and after a few minutes, it seemed quite natural to Alice to find herself talking familiarly with them, as if she had known them for all her life. Indeed, she had quite a long argument with the Lorry, who had last turned sulky, and would only say, "I am older than you, and you must know better." And this Alice would not allow without knowing how old it was, and, as the Lorry positively refused to tell its age, there was no more to be said. That's cute. At last, the mouse, who seemed to be a person of authority among them, called out, "Sit down, all of you, and listen to me. I'll soon make you dry enough." They all sat down at once, in a large ring, with the mouse in the middle. Alice kept her eyes anxiously fixed on it, for she felt sure she would catch a bad cold if she did not get dry very soon. "Ahem," said the mouse with an important air. "Are you all ready? This is the driest thing I know, since all around, if you please. William the Conqueror, whose cause was favored by the Pope, was soon submitted to by the English, who wanted leaders, and had been off late much accustomed to usurpation, I think you'd say, usurpation and conquest. Edwin and Morcar, the Earls of Mercia and Northumbria." "Ugh," said the Lorry with a shiver. "I beg your pardon," said the mouse, frowning, but very politely. "Did you speak?" "Not I," said the Lorry hastily. "I thought you did," said the mouse. "I proceed. Edwin and Morcar, the Earls of Mercia and Northumbria, okay, declare for him, and even Stigand, the patriotic archbishops of Canterbury, found it advisable." "Found what?" said the duck. "Found it," the mouse replied rather crossly. "Of course you know what it means." "I know what it means well enough when I find a thing," said the duck. "It's generally a frog or a worm. The question is, what did the archbishop find?" The mouse did not notice this question, but hurriedly went on. "Found it advisable to go with Edgar Atheling to meet William and offer him the crown. William's conduct at first was moderate, but the insolence of his Normans— How are you getting on, my dear?" It continued, turning to Alice as it spoke. "As wet as ever," said Alice in a melancholy tone. "It doesn't seem to dry me at all." "In that case," said the dodo solemnly, rising to its feet, "I move that the meeting adjourn for the immediate adoption of more energetic remedies." "Speak English," said the eaglet. "I don't know I don't know the meaning of half those long words, and what's more, I don't believe you do either." I love that. Excuse me. What were the long words that it used? Adjourn, immediate adoption, energetic remedies. Those aren't that long. And the eaglet bent down its head to hide a smile. Some of the other birds tittered audibly. Me, when I'm extra small-brained. What I was going to say, said the dodo in an offended tone, was that the best thing to get us dry would be a caucus race. What is a caucus race? Said Alice. Not that she much wanted to know, but the dodo had paused as if it thought that somebody ought to speak, and no one else seemed inclined to say anything. Why, said the dodo, the best way to explain it is to do it. And as you might like to try the thing yourself some winter day, I will tell you how the dodo managed it. First, it marked out a race course in a sort of circle. The exact shape doesn't matter, it said. And then all the party were placed along the course, here and there. There was no 1, 2, 3, and away, but they began running when they liked, and left off when they liked. So that it was not easy to know when the race was over. However, when they had all been running half an hour or so, and were quite dry again, the dodo suddenly called out, "The race is over," and they all crowded round it, panting and asking, "But who has won?" This question the dodo could not answer without a great deal of thought, and, as it had sat for a long time with one finger pressed upon its forehead, the position in which you usually see Shakespeare in the picture of him, while the rest waited in silence, at least the dodo said, everybody has won, and all must have prizes. But who is to give the prizes? Quite a chorus of voices asked. Why, she, of course, said the dodo, pointing to Alice with one finger, and the whole party at once crowded round her, calling out in a confused way, "Prizes! Prizes!" Alice had no idea what to do, and in despair, she put her hand in her pocket and pulled out a box of comfits. Luckily, the salt water had not got into it, and handed them round as prizes. There was exactly one apiece all around. "But she must have a prize herself, you know," said the mouse. "Of course," the dodo replied very gravely. "What else have you got in your pocket?" He went on, turning to Alice. "Only a thimble," said Alice, sadly. "Hand it over here," said the dodo. Then they all crowded round her once more, while the dodo solemnly presented the thimble, saying, "We beg your acceptance of this elegant thimble," and when it had finished this short speech, they all cheered. Alice thought the whole thing very absurd, but they all looked so grave that they did not dare to laugh, and, as she could not think of anything to say, she simply bowed and took the thimble, looking as solemn as she could. The next thing was to eat the comfits. This caused some noise and confusion, as the large birds complained that they could not taste theirs, and the small ones choked and had to be patted on the back. However, it was over at last, and they sat down again in a ring, and begged the mouse to tell them something more. When you gift yourself a thimble, basically. "You promised to tell me your history, you know," said Alice, "and why it is you hate C and D," she added in a whisper, half afraid that it would be... and why it is you hate C and D, she said, added in a whisper, half afraid that it would offend again. "Mine is a long and sad tale," said the mouse, turning to Alice and sighing. "It is a long tale, certainly," said Alice, looking down with a wonder at the mouse's tail. "But why do you call it sad?" And she kept on puzzling about it while the mouse was speaking, so that her idea of the tale was something like this. Oh my god. This is really cool. I can't show you guys this, but there's the writing is in the shape of the mouse's tail. Like I don't know how to describe it. The writing is literally shaped as a mouse's tail, and the wording gets like smaller near the end. This is really cool. Okay. Fury said to a mouse that he met in the house, "Let us both go to law. I will prosecute you. Come, I'll take no denial. We must have a trial, for really this morning I've nothing to do," said the mouse to the cur. "Such a trial, dear sir, with no jury or judge, would be wasting our breath. I'll be judge, I'll be jury," said cunning old Fury. "I'll try the whole cause and condemn you to death." It's doing a loopy, it's just doing a wavy, you know, it's just kind of waving back and forth, and that was the whole page. What I just read is the entire page, so, yeah. It's very interesting. You are not attending, said the mouse to Alice severely. What are you thinking of? I beg your pardon, said Alice very humbly. You had got to the 5th bend, I think. I had not, said the mouse angrily. A knot, said Alice, always ready to make herself useful, and looking anxiously about her. Oh, do let me help to undo it. I shall do nothing of the sort, said the mouse, getting up and walking away. Okay, this may be, I don't know if it was super obvious since I read it out, but I had not, and then she says a knot as in like, you know, tying a knot type of knot. So a little bit of wordplay. Said the mouse, getting up and walking away. You insult me by talking such nonsense. I didn't mean it, pleaded poor Alice. But you're so easily offended, you know. The mouse only growled in reply. Please come back and finish your story, Alice called after it. And the others all joined in chorus. Yes, please do. But the mouse only shook its head impatiently and walked a little quicker. Bah. What a pity, you wouldn't say, sighed the lorry. As soon as it was quite out of sight, and an old crab took the opportunity of saying to her daughter, Ah, my dear, let this be a lesson to you to never lose your temper. Hold your tongue, Ma, said the young crab, a little snappishly. You're enough to try the patience of an oyster. I wish I had our Dinah here, I know I do, said Alice aloud, addressing nobody in particular. She'd soon fetch it back. And who is Dinah, if I might venture to ask the question, said the lorry. Alice replied, eagerly, for she was always ready to talk about her pet. Dinah's our cat, and she's quite a capital one for catching mice, you can't think. And oh, I wish you could see her after the birds. Why, she'll eat a little bird as soon as as soon as look at it. Damn, grammar, it really does change, huh? Why she'll eat a little bird as soon as look at it. Oh no, that makes sense. I was just reading it weird. Okay. This speech caused a remarkable sensation among the party. Some of the birds hurried off at once. One old magpie began wrapping itself up very carefully, remarking, I really must be getting home. The night air doesn't suit my throat, and a canary called out in a trembling voice to its children, Come away, my dears. It's high time you were all in bed. On various pretexts, they all moved off, and Alice was soon left alone. I wish I hadn't mentioned Dinah, she said to herself in a melancholy tone. Nobody seems to like her down here, and I'm sure she's the best cat in the world. Oh, my dear Dinah, I wonder if I shall ever see you any more. And here poor Alice began to cry again. For she felt very lonely and low-spirited. In a little while, however, she again heard a little pattering of footsteps in the distance, and she looked up eagerly, half hoping that the mouse had changed his mind and he was coming back to finish his story. And that is the end of chapter 3 on a cliffhanger. Are you kidding me? What? I don't know, though. Cliffhangers are good spots to end, I think. And my eyes hurt. My eyes do hurt. They do. There's, I think, a bookmark here. There is. Here we go. There's a bookmark built into this book. Oh, that's nice. There we go. Those are the first 3 chapters. You know, it's not that long, but it's decently long. The book I have is actually Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, which are 2 different books. So yeah. But it's a book, all right. Like, it'll take a while to read. I don't know. I might continue reading it later. Who knows? I had fun though. It was nice. No problem. I'm glad I could stream. Thanks for the stream. No problem, Liam. It was super relaxing. I'm glad. For real, I might come back to the VOD later on when I head to sleep. Oh, that's good that it's relaxing. But yeah, I'll think about reading more. I'll think about it. It's relaxing. That's very relaxing. Very relaxing indeed. But yeah, that's it for the stream. Thanks for coming by, everyone. I've got nothing else for you. If you keep watching on my Twitch, I might go live later today and play some games with music, because I was doing that last night. Had fun with that. But we'll see. We'll see if I end up doing it again. But yeah. I've been secret streaming on my Twitch, by the way. Well, just twice. But I'm gonna try to start doing it more, I think. But yeah. I was streaming on Twitch. It was late. It was late at night. You were probably asleep. I tweeted about it even. But I'll probably keep doing those. Secret streaming, it's true. Secret streaming. Chill stream, very cool. Hi, Starfruit. Thanks. I'm glad you liked it. That makes sense. Yeah, I was playing Slay the Spire, just with some music on. Yeah. There was no one there, but yeah, I just need excuses to stream more, so. Talented Tan. See you later, Space Cowboy. Hey, look at all these people coming out of the woodworks. I'm glad you could all buy it. I'm glad you could all come by, though. Okay, that's it for today. Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye. That's the wrong one. There we go. Okay, see you guys.